You know, the reason that we people please or we turn into nice guys is because we feel like that we are not enough as we are. So we have to jump through all of these extra hoops. We have to do all of these extra things to get people to like us, to get people to accept us. This is usually in the form of always feeling like we need to say yes to everybody, never feeling like we can say no, never standing up for ourselves, not being able to set boundaries, tolerating behavior that is clearly unacceptable, not drawing a line, not being able to walk away from situations that aren't serving us. I mean, the list goes on. You probably have suffered from some of these. I know I definitely have. And the reason that we're like this, the reason that we tolerate all of this behavior, the reason that we feel like we have to put other people's needs before our own is because we are so afraid of being rejected and abandoned by people. It comes down essentially to an abandonment wound. So we'll do just about anything that we have to get people to stay in our lives, even if it's clearly not good for us. Even if it's clearly disturbing our peace, if it's taking away from our own peace of mind, we don't care because we're so desperate to have people in our lives. We're so scared of loneliness that we'll do just about anything to keep people in our lives, especially even the wrong people. This sort of nice guy, people-pleasing behavior can show up in even more nuanced ways that you're not even conscious of. Maybe you're afraid to speak your mind in front of people. Maybe you're afraid to say what you really think, state your opinions. Maybe you feel like you have to craft the perfect text message to people. You have to text back right away because if you don't, then they're gonna, not want to talk to you anymore. Maybe you feel like you can't dress how you truly want to because other people are going to judge you and not want to be your friend because of it. I'm telling you guys from experience, you have to break out of this. The way that you do this is by something called shadow work. And I've talked about it before. Well, you see, let me start with this. The reason that we do this sort of nice guy facade is because we're so afraid, I think, of being found out. We're not comfortable with who we truly are. So we put on this nice guy thing so people won't truly see our dark side because we're not truly comfortable with the dark aspects of our personality. Maybe, and by dark aspects of our personality, essentially I just mean our insecurities. We've buried them down so deep and we're terrified of anybody seeing them or finding them out. This can be in a variety of ways. This could be maybe we have some nerdy hobby or something that we're ashamed of. Maybe we're, loners. We don't want people to find that out. It could be any sort of insecurity that you may have. You might be so ashamed of it that you think that by being this sort of people pleaser or this nice guy or nice girl, this is for women too, that it'll kind of make up for the insecurities that you have. And again, this behavior is mostly very unconscious. It might not be something you're aware of. But the thing is, when you stop trying so hard, when you're no longer afraid of being alone, when you no longer care about other people accepting you, this is absolute true freedom. This is more freedom than wealth. This is more freedom than having a beautiful car. This is more freedom than having the hot trophy girlfriend. This is, I'm telling you, it's literally unexplainable, this type of freedom. You are no longer a slave to society. You're no longer a slave to how other people respond to you. Because that's the thing, when you're suffering from people pleasing and this nice guy syndrome thing, your self-worth is completely dependent on how other people perceive you. And if that perception is anything less than positive, it's almost going to feel like you have nothing left. Like everything is depending on how other people accept you, if other people accept you. And when you can truly let that go, when you can just find it in yourself to be truly and completely content and comfortable with who you are in your own skin and no longer care if other people accept you or not, this is the ultimate freedom that you can find in this life. You see, the problem is too, I think that people who are suffering from this people-pleasing nice guy thing, they're so afraid of being imperfect. Like they think they need to be this perfect person and they have to put on this fake sort of personality to get people to like them. But the truth is, people are actually more attracted to imperfection than perfection. People relate more to imperfection because nobody is perfect, and that's why it comes off as completely inauthentic. And this is why nobody respects people who are like very excessive people pleasers or excessive nice guys. These people will always get taken advantage of. They'll always get used. This is why they're very vulnerable and they often get targeted by narcissists. Because they're just an easy target, because they don't respect themselves. They'll tolerate just about anything. They don't know how to set boundaries with other people. So this is why people who step over boundaries will prey on somebody like this. The narcissist will prey on somebody who's a people pleaser. So what do you do to alleviate this sort of people-pleasing nice guy thing? What you have to do is go deep within yourself and face all of those dark aspects of yourself, all of those insecurities that you're so ashamed of. Because this is how you truly become comfortable with yourself in your own skin. You face all of your insecurities and completely let them go. A good way to do this is to just write them down in detail. Write down all the times that you were bullied. Write down all of the times that maybe you got taken advantage of, maybe the times that you got used, all of those like embarrassing things that you just don't even want to face. Face all of it, everything that you've been through in your life. Keep a journal dedicated towards this. Your shadow, it's that deep repressed, that part of yourself that you've repressed from the world. That's what you're trying to hide from everybody. That's why you put on the nice guy facade. You're trying to hide your shadow from the world, and you don't want it to be found out because the thought of that even gives you anxiety. Think about something that you generally really try to hide from everybody, that you try to hide from the world, whatever that may be. Think about if like everybody just found that out. What would that make you feel like? I bet right now it even probably is giving you some anxiety. That's the stuff that you got to face and slowly start showing it to the world in some way. That's how you're going to overcome this and no longer be a slave to society or what other people think of you. You just no longer care. You're completely comfortable in your own skin. And this is what ultimately will make the right people gravitate towards you. Because now when this is how you become your authentic self. You don't learn to truly love yourself. You don't learn to truly become your authentic self by like finding reasons to love yourself, finding reasons, finding your good qualities. Like all of your qualities are good. You're born exactly how you should be. And there's nothing about yourself to be ashamed of. So that's why it's actually the opposite that you're supposed to do with shadow work. You're supposed to find all of those dark aspects about yourself, all of those insecurities, all of those things you're ashamed of, embarrassed of. Those are the things you want to bring out into the light. Those are the feelings that you want to feel. It has to do a lot with like really feeling all of that discomfort. So if you were to write about this stuff in detail, you're going to feel kind of uncomfortable about it. And you're not even going to want to, you're probably still in denial about a lot of things that have happened to you. I almost can guarantee it. Especially if you were abused or picked on in some way, like all that kind of stuff. That stuff can be really uncomfortable to talk about or to write about. Talking about the stuff is really good too. Highly recommend finding somebody to talk about these things with. That's what helped me get more comfortable in my own skin. When I started seeing a therapist, which I was originally very hesitant and reluctant to, but I'm glad I did, because once I started unraveling this whole mess in here is when I finally was able to face everything. To face all those dark aspects of myself that I was hiding from everybody. It's important to remember that you have to learn to set boundaries with other people. This is a really important facet of overcoming this nice guy people-pleasing thing. You have to learn to say no, even if it's uncomfortable. You have to learn to stand up for yourself. You have to learn to not worry so much if you get accepted by other people. You have to sort of like be aware of every situation, every interaction with you're in, and you'll see in little nuanced ways how you're kind of doing the people-pleasing thing. Like it won't always be so obvious. It won't always be something that you can clearly see. But you'll see like maybe you're trying too hard in the way that you conversate with people. You're trying too hard. Maybe you're afraid of being boring. Maybe you're trying too hard to be funny. You're trying too hard to tell the perfect story. Notice when you're doing more than you feel like you want to, just to get people to like you. And this is essentially the behavior that you want to slowly start noticing and slowly put an end to. This is a long process. It won't happen right away. But the more that you can shine awareness on it, the more you'll get kind of almost fed up with yourself. Although you don't want to be hard on yourself about it. You want to just understand that you're just a product of your environment. This all comes down to a lot of childhood sort of trauma and the way that your relationship with your parents. But you're never really going to truly live the life you want if you're just a slave to everybody else and to their opinion of you and to whether or not they like you and accept you. You're always going to be sort of living in a very confined sort of way. Like you're never going to truly be free, and you don't know what it feels like until you actually experience it, because I didn't know until I sort of became who I am now, and I'm still working on it. I really do think it comes down to ultimately the fear of being alone. I do think it's just an abandonment thing. I think it was, maybe you had parents who were a bit neglectful and you felt like you had to do more, you had to do extra in order to get them to like you, in order to get their attention, and now you're still that carried into adulthood. Or it could have been somebody else, maybe somebody else, some sort of other caretaker, teacher. Maybe that's like where the sort of the class clown archetype comes from. They had to act out in class to get people to pay attention to them. And that could carry into adulthood a lot. Maybe you had very domineering, controlling parents and you always felt like you had to be perfect. You always had to do everything right. You had to please them. So again, that is maybe the behavior that feels familiar to you, and that's what you're doing now in adulthood. I'm not going to get into that too much. I wanted to keep this rather practical. It will be uncomfortable, but it will be worth it. And you could do things very slowly. Like, so instead of just flat out saying no to people, maybe you're the person that everybody relies on to help them with things, or, you're just so used to saying yes to any obligation that anybody asks, or, anything like that. You don't have to just say no, but maybe you can meet them in the middle, or maybe you could say no, but how about this? Something that feels more right for you. But I would start there. If you're the people pleasing, I would say it comes out most in relationships. That's where we struggle with it the most. In order to get this person to stay in our lives, we feel like we sometimes have to play the caretaker role. We often, the nice guy often selects people who clearly aren't good for them. Maybe single parents, people with addiction, people who have their own problems that they need to sort out first. We'll kind of choose these people because it feels safe for us. Maybe it feels familiar, but it also feels like maybe they're a project that we can fix. The people pleaser loves these sorts of things. I think that's all I really wanted to say about this today. I hope this was somewhat informative, and I do hope you'll think a little bit about what I'm saying here. And if this is something you struggle with, I do hope you find the patience and the courage to break out of it.